What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a Football Friday edition of Back Your Play with Q. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones, brought to you by our good friends over at Play It Again Sports, 1450 Clements Bridge Road. And of course, we want to welcome back Fresh Roasted Coffee. You'll see the link, the affiliate link in my show notes on Buzzsprout as well as the YouTube channel. But you click on it, pick out the coffee, 20% off your first order. And it's pretty simple. You can use the promo code BYP20 or back your play for the 20%. And a man that never needs any discounts is our good friend Lloyd Vance, host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football on Sports Radio 1029 FM. The Game, that's where you can also hear BYP, but Football Friday edition. And we got some breaking news when we got off the air yesterday with Middays with Q. Trevor Lawrence getting the bag. We will dissect the AFC South. But as always, how are you, my friend?
Doing great, but I need them discounts too, man. I love it.
Hey,
But
well, listen, you
yeah,
can go on, like I told you, you can check out that promo code, buy yourself some coffee. That's not a
nice.
problem, right? We'll take
Yeah,
care of that.
yeah,
BYP20 or back your play if you so
nice,
choose. And as always, right there, right? We got the cup, we got the Q cup, we got the fresh roasted coffee. All
nice.
right, Trevor Lawrence. I guess now the question is, you look at this contract that Jacksonville obviously shown we are committed to Trevor Lawrence. And I think logically, the next conversation is always, well, does he deserve it? And then we'll kind of get in the quarterbacks that are next in line. But this is a big time contract for a quarterback that I've always liked, but I'm still waiting to see taking that next step. 5 years, 275 million.
Yeah, Q, you got the bag. It's that time of year. We're talking about these young quarterbacks. They're coming up on their fifth year options, and it's time
Yep.
to for teams to decide what they're going to do in terms of their future. And Trevor Lawrence, I don't think he's lived up to the expectations that he's the next Andrew Luck, John Elway, generational type quarterback. But I think he's done a good job in terms of Jacksonville turning that team around. Uh, he and Doug Peterson are firmly on the same page, working with that offense. And down the stretch last year, obviously going 1-4, that kind of hurt them in terms of making the playoffs. And they let one of their other competitors sneak in there. But I think he's a good fit for this team. It's just the amount of money right now that these guys are making. And you're starting to think about this class of 2021 of the first round quarterbacks. You had Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and Mac Jones. And
Mm-hmm.
Trevor Lawrence is the only one from that class that's still with his original team. So yeah, he's earned this, and we'll see what's next. And the big thing is Brock Purdy was also part of around that time too. And what are the Niners going to pay him coming up?
Yeah, I believe it was a situation where Doug Peterson basically went to the front office and ownership and said, I believe in this kid. Let's lock him up and pay him, right? But again, you need a quarterback that's going to win you 12, 13, 14 games and make the deep runs in the playoffs. Their win total is 8.5 minus 110. The under is 8.5. Obviously, to go under is minus 110 as well. So that's kind of tells you the books believe they're right at a 8-9 win team. I mean, I remember last year, I think CBS's Pete Prisco basically said Jacksonville's going to make the Super Bowl. Trevor Lawrence is going to be the MVP. Here we go. I had them as a team that I thought would maybe make a run at it as well. They got off to a 6-2 start. They were 8-3. They beat the Texans in week 12. And again, here we go, right? Down the stretch, as you alluded to, 9-8 finish, left them out of the postseason. They were 3-5 in one-score games. You lose Ridley in the offseason. Uh, Gabe Davis, Brian Thomas Jr. Hopefully they help Lawrence out. Listen, I think it's a situation now where you look at their schedule too. I think they take a step back, but I still believe Trevor Lawrence will put up some big numbers. But ultimately, the head coach went to ownership and said, "We believe in him."
Yes, and then Trent Baalke's the general manager there, and he likes locking up his quarterbacks, and from his days with the Niners, and he's doing the same thing with the Jaguars, and we know how difficult it is for these teams to find that franchise quarterback, and once you get a guy who you kind of think is that guy, you pay him, and then the chips kind of fall where they may. So, he did do a nice job last year in terms of taking that next step after the previous season, and
Hmm.
he's kind of a Pro Bowl guy. I don't know if he's top 10 or not and all that. Everybody always likes to debate if a guy's top 10, but he is a franchise quarterback. And you're right, they did some things this offseason to kind of help them. Zay Jones is also gone. We'll see how that works out. But Gabe Davis coming over from Buffalo, we know Davis is a big time receiver in terms of down the field production, but he did have some problems with drops. They bringing in Devin Duvernay as well, Brian Thomas, who I really liked out of LSU. I think they were kind of lucky to get him at that 23rd spot in the first round. And they also have a young guy, David White. We'll see if he's able to bounce back. He has an ACL. They've done a nice job in terms of their offensive line. Cam Robinson is that cornerstone left tackle who's done a good job protecting him. And they're getting Mitch Morse coming over from Buffalo. Also, a guy you can't forget is Christian Kirk in the slot. He really seems to have a connection as well with Trevor Lawrence. So they have the pieces in place as well as Travis Etienne, the running back there on offense to support him. And yeah, you're right. They got to do a better job finishing games and winning those close battles. But it's going to be them and the Houston Texans, I believe, in this division.
Yeah, some people think the Colts are going to make a move up and maybe the Texans slide back or Jacksonville makes a move up. Who knows? Lawrence, sixth quarterback to have annual salary above 50 million. So you got Burrow, you got Cincinnati, you got Jared Goff, obviously with the Lions, Herbert with the Chargers, Lamar Jackson with the Ravens. Now you can make a case for all those quarterbacks, AFC championships, NFC championships, playoff runs, not so much Herbert thus far, Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, MVP. And then you got Philadelphia's Jalen Hurts, 53, which we'll get into a little later on in the program. And it's crazy. Patrick Mahomes, who just won his third Super Bowl, is the third highest paid quarterback at the next highest, I should say, at 46 million. But point being, that's kind of the group, the crop that Lawrence is with right now. And then as we kind of continue to look at, the division as a whole, I still believe the Texans, I thought it was a great story, but yet Stroud showed you he's a stud. I think you also have you've got the right head coach in place, and you've got some really nice pieces to that puzzle. Now, I thought they're not going to be like, you might scale back when it comes to looking at this team as a hot team to kind of bet on. I don't think they're going to be as popular opinion because, again, you look at 2023, you got a historic season from a quarterback in CJ Stroud. They were one of the best stories. They were 7-3 in one score games. Everything worked in their favor last year. And again, you had a losing record in November after they fell to the Panthers. But that being said, they still took that jump and they had that big win against Cleveland in the playoffs. So maybe they take a step back right now. Win total, it is sitting at 9.5, minus 140 to hit the over. If you're thinking about going under with them, maybe winning 7, 8, 9 games, that's plus 120. So obviously, if it's juiced to the under, you put a couple more dollars in your pocket. You'll lay 100 to win 120 as opposed to laying 140 to win back 100. So 9.5, where are you right now with the Texans?
I'm probably right around that number. I think sure they're going to beat that number. I think they do get to 10 wins last year. They go 10-7. Had a very good season. As you're talking about 6-3 at home, where they're very tough. And in division, they were 4-2. This
And
from
added Diggs too, mind you, by the way, Lloyd. They added
right.
Diggs and Hunter.
And
Yep.
this division is very competitive. So it's going to be tough for them to get to that 10 because as you were talking about, all these teams, and we'll go through the rest of them, have gotten better, I think, in the offseason. They're all loading up and they seem to be building around young quarterbacks and moving in the right direction. But the thing is, Nick Casario has done a great job in terms of the Texans working with D'Amico Ryans, who, as you said, very good fit. A lot of people were kind of wondering, was Ryans ready to take over that key seat as the head man? And he's done a great job with Texans. And this roster is loaded. And the Texans, as you said, did a great job this offseason. They have Nico Collins. They bring over Stephon Diggs. You got Noah Brown, John Mechie, and that's the receiving core. Tank Dell as well. Robert Woods in there as well. So, teams should be looking at them around cut time for a receiver. And then what I really like is the offensive line that they built there. Larry Tunsil is one of the best left tackles in the game, a pure technician. You also have Titus Howard, the other tackle position. He's coming back from injury, and they did a great job in terms of keeping CJ Stroud upright. And he's only going to get better. So it's going
Yep.
to be fun to watch him. And then let's not forget Joe Mixon coming over from the Bengals as well. And that defense led by Will Anderson, the other rookie of the year, defensively, they just are loaded as well. So this is going to be a fun team to watch, and the NFL definitely wants to have them on TV, and they're one of the ascending teams out there in the league.
Look, I might be bullish on them, right? But not to the extent of the market. CJ Stroud, I believe, is 12 to 1 to win the MVP. And think about that win total again, 9.5. And oh, by the way, we failed to mention when you look at their schedule, it's a first place schedule. So that kind of, I think sometimes when you arrive in early, a season early, maybe you take a little step back. I think they can win 9 games, and the division I'd still cash out without laying any juice. We mentioned Jacksonville, and then you got Indianapolis. Right now, win total is 8.5 for the over, plus 105 for the under, minus 125. And again, I guess the question mark is the health of the quarterback. So we'll get into the Colts. Where are you at with them?
Colts going to be interesting too because you have Anthony Richardson had that shoulder injury. He only played about 4 games last year, but he's such a dynamic player. Hopefully, he's learned to kind of protect himself out there, slide, and live to play another down. The funny thing is, they made sure they got a good backup. They bring Joe Flacco over, the Magic Man from last year with Cleveland Browns, and he's going to be the backup with the Colts. So Richardson, by everybody I talked to, is looked good in mini camps, getting ready for training camp. And this is another team. They have Michael Pittman Jr. They're trying to build the triplet. So you have Michael Pittman Jr. at the receiver position, and then they have the bell cow running back in Jonathan Taylor. They broke him off, and they run behind one of the best centers of the game, Ryan Kelly. So they're another team that's loaded, and the key thing obviously is going to be their defense. Can Quiddy Pay and some of those guys, make an effort defensively because they did allow 415 points last year, which was about 24.4 points per game. 28th ranked in the league. So that just shows you their defense has some work to do. Their schedule is going to be interesting because they were 3-3 in division, but they've got to win some of these close games against Jacksonville and Houston.
And you talk about Gus Bradley's 28th ranked defense can't be much worse than last year. Third place schedule means matchup against the Giants, Broncos, Steelers. Best possible draw if you think about it. AFC South for them. Listen, they were 6-3 in one-score games last season, right? I just pulled it up. You mentioned some veterans. Here you go. They could get off to a nice little start, and maybe by week 13, 14, you've got that 4-game home stretch. Maybe you can surpass. I like the plus money. That's kind of where I'm leaving. I think they win 9 games, so I like them at plus 105. And then the team I think is going to struggle mightily are the Tennessee Titans. Right now, their win total is 6.5 plus 110 over, and the under is minus 135. So thoughts on them?
Yeah, and Rand Carson's come over there. He's come from the Niners organization. He's their new general manager, and he's coming in there, and they have a rookie head coach with Brian Callahan. So they're this team is building, and I kind of like what they've done this offseason. They bring over Calvin Ridley from the Jacksonville Jaguars, a receiver position, to work with DeAndre Hopkins, and they already had Treylon Burks in place. They bring over Lloyd Cushenberry at the center position from the Broncos. Um, Tony Pollard at the running back position. We'll see if he's able to replace Henry and all the production he had over the years. But obviously, the key question mark is going to be Will Levis at the quarterback position. To me, he's still kind of more backup than a franchise starter. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. They did bring in Mason Rudolph to be the backup behind him. In Tennessee, they have an interesting schedule. They begin at Chicago. They have the Jets, Green Bay, and then they have a Monday night game against Miami. Then they're bye. So it's going to be interesting right off the bat. We're going to see what type of team this is, and is Levis ready to take that step because sometimes he made some really bonehead mistakes at the end of the game. A lot of times they had leads, and then they kind of blew it at the end where he threw a bad interception.
Yeah, and they can be a 5 to 5.5 win team instead of 6 wins or so. But again, plus money, it's probably intriguing to a lot of people. Got a new coaching staff. Callahan brings in some, very nice offensive resume. I'm not sold on the quarterback. I do like some of their weapons. I just put it up. You got a week 5 bye, pretty tough last place result. Last year resulted in matchups against who? You got the Chargers, you got the Bengals, you got the Commanders. That's tough right there with those defenses. And of course, Harbaugh and Quinn. If it was lower, I'd grab it. If it was, say, 4.5, I'd probably play the over. Right now, I am leaning towards the under at and let me just refresh at -135. So I'll actually lay 135 to win back 100. I believe it's going to come down to the Texans. Jacksonville, all the pressure now is going to be on Lawrence because of that payday. And as you mentioned, the health of Richards and the Colts, they can be a team that's on the rise. Who do you like coming out of that division?
Wow, this is a tough one because I've been back and forth because all these teams, as I said, they're young and they're kind of bunched together. But I'm going to go with the Houston Texans just with the amount of firepower that they stack there offensively and defensively. I just think this team may be just a little bit better. Jacksonville, it is going to be a lot for him to live up to that contract. They're counting on Travis Etienne to kind of make another jump. And Doug Peterson, I'm not saying he's on a hot seat, but that Super Bowl win with the Eagles is in a rearview mirror, and they're looking for a lot from him. So I will go with the Texans, but I think Jacksonville can make some noise in there. Indianapolis, if they can keep their quarterback healthy, they're going to be a fun team to watch as well. I do agree with you that the Tennessee Titans probably will be in the basement of this division.
All right, there you have it. Our BYP look at the AFC South, brought to you by our good friends over at Play It Again Sports, 1450 Clemens Ridge Road in Deptford, New Jersey. And of course, fresh roasted coffee. You'll see the link below. You have to click the affiliate link, and you got coffee, you got tea, you got some good choices there, whatever your little heart desires. But once you click the affiliate link, don't forget BYP 20 and/or back your play. Those are the promo codes, and that'll get you 20% off your first purchase. And just keep purchasing. You will get some savings across the board. Lloyd Vance will be back on 102.9 FM. Hopefully next week. We're back in the saddle. Lloyd Vance's Insider Football. Give him a follow on X at Lloyd Vance. He's always kind enough to join us on a Football Friday edition of Back Your Play. As always, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Don't forget to download the Sports Radio 102.9 FM, The Game, Southwest Florida's newest game in town, the app. Mentioned follow Lloyd on all social. Tune into the show as well, Mondays at 8, I would say till 9ish, but sometimes Lloyd's got a lot of concrete information. He's got to go over a little bit here and there. Our good friend Angel Martinez doesn't mind. So we got a lot of divisions, more to keep breaking down. We'll start to get into some really unique player props, MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, coaches on the hot seat, players on the hot seat. I mean, we will run the gamut on Middays with Q as well as BYP, but always appreciate a couple moments, my friend. Thank you.
All right, Q.